Every night, almost every human on Earth agrees to become helpless. We turn off the lights, lie down, close our eyes, and allow awareness to fade. Predators may no longer stalk our caves, yet we still spend hours in this fragile state. From an evolutionary perspective, this looks like a strange and risky habit. If survival is about staying alert, sleep seems like a bad strategy at first glance. You cannot run from danger, you cannot search for food, and you cannot protect your group. Yet, across cultures, climates, and eras, humans and most animals keep returning to this nightly shutdown. It appears that the cost of skipping sleep is even higher than the risk of being unconscious. So what is powerful enough to justify losing a third of our lives to sleep? Why would the brain, the most energy-hungry organ we have, choose to dim its own lights? Is sleep just a way to rest, or is something more precise and hidden happening in the dark? The real puzzle is not why we get tired, but why the brain insists on this special state. Why do we sleep at all? If staying awake seems more useful, the short answer is that sleep is not wasted time but active work hidden from our awareness. Every night while the body lies still, the brain appears to enter a different mode of operation. Thoughts loosen, memories drift, and the boundary between real and imagined scenes becomes softer. Behind that calm surface, billions of neurons are changing their connections and chemical balances. Sleep has followed us through every chapter of human history. Ancient farmers timed their days around sunrise, sailors navigated by the stars, and monks marked their nights with quiet rituals. No matter the era, people notice the same pattern. Without sleep, clarity fades and decision-making becomes uncertain. This observation alone shows that sleep shapes how societies function, not just how individuals feel. Today, the question matters even more. Modern life pushes the boundary between day and night with screens, long work hours, and artificial light. Shifting sleep patterns now influence health, productivity, and even public safety. When a population sleeps less, reaction times slow and errors rise, which affects everything from driving to medical work. Where does this universal behavior come from? Researchers often point to our early ancestors who depended on predictable cycles of activity and rest. Caves, simple shelters, and tree canopies created safe pockets where nightly stillness became possible. Over many generations, sleep likely became a stable part of our biology because it offered benefits strong enough to outweigh the risks. Why does this matter now? Because understanding why sleep exists helps us understand what the brain values. If an activity appears in nearly every species that has a nervous system, it hints at a deep evolutionary priority. In this case, the priority seems to be stability of memory, health of brain tissue, and efficiency of energy use. What does this tell us? It suggests that sleep is not a cultural choice, but a biological requirement shaped over millions of years. Imagine a busy office that shuts its doors each night not to relax, but to reorganize. Files are moved, outdated documents are cleared, and important notes are placed where they can be found later. Sleep appears to function in a similar way for the brain, giving it a controlled environment to perform tasks that are harder to manage when awake. The simplest analogy is housekeeping. When we are awake, the brain is like a restaurant during lunch hours, serving customers and responding to constant demands. During sleep, the same space becomes a quiet kitchen, where staff clean surfaces, restock supplies, and prepare for the next day. This temporary shift lets the system maintain order without losing efficiency. In technical terms, sleep is a regulated biological state where neural activity changes in patterned cycles. These cycles include non-rapid eye movement stages and rapid eye movement stages. Non-rapid eye movement sleep involves slow, synchronized electrical patterns that help stabilize memories. Rapid eye movement sleep involves fast activity linked to dreaming and emotional processing. Neurons also adjust their chemical environment at night. While awake, they accumulate metabolic byproducts, which are small waste molecules created through normal activity. During sleep, fluid channels between brain cells widen, allowing these byproducts to be cleared more effectively. This process is sometimes compared to rinsing a sponge, so it can absorb new material the next day. What does this mechanism achieve? It allows the brain to store what matters, release what does not, and prepare its networks for a new cycle of learning and decision-making. Scientists rely on measurable observations to understand what the brain actually does during sleep. These observations come from electrical recordings, metabolic studies, and behavioral experiments. Together, they form a consistent picture of sleep as an active, organized process rather than a passive shutdown. Here are several examples that help clarify this idea. First, brainwave recordings show a clear shift in electrical patterns when we fall asleep. During deep non-rapid eye movement sleep, waves become slower and larger, a sign that large groups of neurons are firing together. This synchrony appears to help convert short-term memories into more stable forms. People who sleep after learning new material often perform about 20 to 30% better on tests the next day. Second, studies measuring the flow of brain fluid reveal that waste removal increases at night. In mice, clearance of metabolic byproducts rises by roughly 60% during sleep compared to wakefulness. This suggests that the brain uses quiet periods to flush out accumulated compounds. The effect is similar to increasing the water pressure in a cleaning system, so debris can be moved more efficiently. Third, experiments with reaction times show that lack of sleep reduces cognitive speed. After about 24 hours without rest, people respond as slowly as someone with a moderate level of alcohol in their system. This comparison demonstrates how sleep loss alters performance in predictable ways. The effect is not caused by laziness, but by measurable changes in neural processing. Fourth, emotional regulation also shifts with sleep. Brain scans indicate that the amygdala, a region involved in interpreting emotional signals, becomes more reactive when sleep is restricted. Meanwhile, the prefrontal cortex, which helps maintain control and evaluate context, becomes less stable. This imbalance explains why people feel more sensitive or irritable after poor sleep. What do these observations tell us? They show that sleep supports memory, clears waste, maintains attention, and stabilizes emotion through distinct and measurable processes. The null hypothesis states that sleep may not serve a special or unique function. According to this view, sleep could simply be a side effect of limited energy, or a quiet period created by our internal clock. In other words, the claim would be that nothing particularly complex happens at night beyond general rest. This is the baseline to compare all explanations against. One alternative idea is that sleep is only about conserving energy. The logic is simple. When the environment is dark and less predictable, staying still might be safer and more efficient. This explanation works to a degree because sleep does reduce energy use by roughly 10 to 15%. However, the reduction is not large enough to justify the long periods of vulnerability that many animals experience. Another suggestion is that sleep is only a behavioral pause. Under this view, animals might have developed a routine of nighttime inactivity without needing a deeper biological reason. The challenge is that brain activity during sleep is structured and rhythmic, not random or idle. The presence of complex electrical patterns makes it unlikely that sleep is merely a behavioral habit. A third explanation is that sleep evolved to keep organisms out of trouble. By staying still during dangerous hours, an animal might avoid predators or accidents. This idea explains timing, but not function. Because the brain continues to work intensely during sleep, predator avoidance also does not align well with species that sleep in exposed locations or during daylight. Some researchers have proposed that sleep helps repair the body. Cells throughout the body do increase their repair activity at night, which fits part of the story. Yet the brain's reorganization, waste clearing, and memory strengthening appear far more specific than general repair alone. This makes the repair hypothesis useful, but incomplete. Evaluating these alternatives leads to a pattern. Most explanations describe one benefit, but not the full set of observations. Energy savings are real but too small. Behavioral pauses exist, but do not explain neural rhythms, and repair happens, but does not cover cognitive changes. The explanation that currently matches the evidence most consistently is that sleep is a coordinated state for memory processing, waste clearance, emotional regulation, and metabolic balance. What does this conclusion mean? It suggests that sleep is not a single-purpose event, but a multi-layered biological operation shaped by several evolutionary pressures working together. Our tools for studying sleep are advanced, yet they still leave wide gaps in our understanding. Even with electrodes, imaging devices, and chemical tracers, we can only observe broad patterns, not the full detail of what each neuron is doing. Most recordings capture thousands or millions of cells at once, which makes it difficult to see the precise steps the brain takes during sleep. This limitation shapes how confidently we can interpret the data. Sample sizes also restrict our insight. Human sleep studies often involve small groups because participants must sleep in controlled laboratory rooms with sensors attached. These environments do not fully reflect real life, where noise, stress, and personal habits influence sleep quality. As a result, some findings may describe ideal conditions rather than everyday experience. Another challenge comes from the hidden chemistry of the brain. Many molecules involved in memory, emotion, and waste clearance change at microscopic scales. Current instruments cannot track all of them in real time without disturbing the tissue. This means that important interactions may occur without being directly captured. We also lack long-term data. It is difficult to monitor the same person through months or years of natural sleep. Without long timelines, patterns related to aging, illness, or lifestyle are easy to miss. This uncertainty leaves room for multiple interpretations of the same observations. What kinds of experiments could reduce these gaps? More portable sensing devices may help researchers measure sleep in natural environments rather than artificial labs. Advanced imaging methods could track fluid flow and neural activity with better resolution. Large population studies might reveal patterns that individual experiments cannot detect. What do these limitations show? They remind us that our current models are working estimates rather than complete explanations, and that deeper answers will require finer instruments and broader data. If the current understanding of sleep proves correct, the implications reach far beyond a good night's rest. The first major impact concerns learning. A well-structured sleep cycle appears to help the brain strengthen useful memories while reducing noise. In practical terms, this means that studying with adequate sleep may improve retention more than adding extra hours of wakeful practice. A second impact involves emotional stability. When the brain regulates feelings more effectively at night, daytime reactions become steadier and less impulsive. This influences social interactions, decision-making, and even workplace performance. The effect is subtle but noticeable across large groups, where improved sleep often correlates with calmer behavior and more consistent judgment. A third consequence appears in physical health. During sleep, the body regulates hormones such as growth hormone and insulin, which help maintain metabolism and tissue repair. Regular sleep patterns can reduce the risk of metabolic imbalance, which may influence long-term health. Although sleep is not a cure for illness, its absence can make existing problems harder to manage. There are risks to consider as well. People often misinterpret new sleep findings as rules that apply to everyone equally. However, sleep needs differ with age, lifestyle, and genetics, so applying strict formulas can lead to unrealistic expectations. In addition, tracking sleep with apps or wearables sometimes creates anxiety, which itself can reduce sleep quality. What does this mean for daily life? It suggests that sleep is not simply downtime, but a part of our biological system that supports learning, emotional health, and physical stability. Understanding its role may help people make thoughtful choices without falling into sensational claims or rigid routines. Sleep remains one of the clearest reminders that the brain works on multiple timelines. During the day, it responds to the world with speed and flexibility. At night, it continues its work in slow, organized patterns that prepare the mind for the next cycle. The excitement is real, but so is the need for caution. If sleep shapes memory, emotion, and health, then understanding it becomes a way to understand ourselves. It encourages us to notice how rest influences clarity and how small changes can shift our daily experiences. The quiet hours we often overlook may hold some of the most important work the brain performs. Why does sleep still protect functions we barely understand? The question itself invites reflection and curiosity without promising simple answers. If you found this topic intriguing, subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts in the comments.